Good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie here, and we had tons of torrential rain last night. So we have a little bit of flooding here in the mountains, and things are a little bit on standby. Schools have been slowed and delayed starts because of the high waters, but we are persevering and we don't need the rowboat and the oars quite yet, so it's all a good day. My walk's going to happen later on today simply because of all the rain that's been coming down, but such is life, and we adjust and go on. I hope your weekend was a wonderful one. Mine was really good. Um, Beginning to do a little things outside in the garden, getting ready for planting a few little things like I do every year. And it feels so good to be outside. The robins aren't back here at the house yet, but they should be coming along before too much longer. And the cardinals were out in force this morning. I had a whole cadre of them in the sassafras tree, which is always pretty to see because they're also bright and cheery. There were a few blue jays out there too, and they were squawking around, getting ready for spring as well. So I think winter is beginning to loosen at least its grasp on all of us, and warmer days are ahead for us that live a little bit further north. So it's a good day in my neighborhood. I hope it is in yours as well. With that in mind, I wanted to check in with you today on something that I run into every once in a while. I don't know if you run into it or not, but it is a challenge for me. It's something my dad used to refer to as your plate of life getting way too full. And when that happens, my dad would always say, it's time to step back and re examine what you're doing. And I think that's pretty true for all of us. Um, I like to help people, I like to be of service, I like to say yes. Um, I would rather try to help somebody, even if it inconveniences me some, than say no. And because of that, sometimes I pile way too much stuff on my plate of life and it begins to overflow. Um, when I think about it, when it comes to food, I can see certain parallels there. You know, do you pile too much on your plate of food, and does it spill over? And the results have really a lot of consequences that you weren't anticipating or looking forward to, or wanted or desired. So when that happens, one of the things that I have found really works for me, that fits in really well with this series I'm doing on persisting, and continuing to fight, to never give up, to not quit, uh, is the word simplify. I need to step back and simplify. And the very first thing I always do, and I've talked to you this about it several times before, but it is my go-to when I begin to get a little bit overwhelmed with everything that's going on in my life. I step back, stand up, and take several deep breaths. So it's just and every time I take that deep breath, I can feel things settling down, calming down, stillness being restored, peacefulness being reestablished, things beginning to realign just because I am taking time to breathe, to simplify life to its most basic element, which is simply breathing in and breathing out. Such a simple thing to do, but for me, sometimes a very necessary thing to do, because it allows me, when I simplify back to that very very basic need to begin to declutter, to begin to examine, to begin to see where things are stacking up, getting in the way, creating unnecessary obstacles in my path, and where I need to devote some effort. It's one thing to say, well, okay, I need to declutter my surroundings. And I think all of us from time to time have things stacking up around that we need to go through, sort out, and rearrange, put back where they belong, get rid of if we don't need them. Just generally do triage of our surroundings, if you will. My garbage pickup is always on Monday morning. And so usually Sunday evening, I'm going through the house, making sure everything that needs to go to the curb is out to the curb. Uh, because I know that once it's up to the curb, I'm not going to drag it back down to the house and go through it again. So this weekend, I actually spent some time again looking at my surroundings and asking myself where all this stuff comes from that I seem to accumulate. I don't really know. I think it appears at night. Gremlins bring it in or something. But anyway, I had a pile of stuff. I had old newspapers, old magazines, worn out tennis shoes that really had seen their better days and then some, all kinds of things as I was digging through stuff because I'm getting ready to start to garden, and I have some pretty old tennis shoes and work clothes that I go play in the dirt with. So I was clearing through all that stuff, and I had a sack full of things that needed to go up to the curb. And then I went in the office and did the same thing and reorganize things in here a little bit. Again, I seem to collect stacks of paper, like a paper magnet of some kind. It's never dollar bills. I've never understood that, but I do collect a lot of other kinds of paper. So I went through all that and sorted it out and got it ready to go as well. And then I just generally went through the house. I cleaned out the refrigerator. There was some mystery food in there that I wasn't sure what it was. So I decided if I couldn't even remember what it was, it probably definitely needed to go out of my refrigerator and into the trash. So those were all the kinds of things I was doing in my surroundings to make them more orderly, more functional, more free of stress. So that when I reached into the refrigerator to get out the orange juice, for example, I didn't have to move 2 or 3 containers of stuff to get to the orange juice. When I went to get out the English muffins, I could just go do that type of thing. I'm sure you do it too. You simplify, you declutter on a regular basis. And as I'm doing that, I am beginning to feel an increase in the calmness in my life as these things are going out the door and away from me and not getting in the way of my day-to-day activities. They're such little things, but they do add up when you're busy and you have a lot of other things to do, to creating a sense of frustration in getting on with the important things that you want to accomplish each and every day. And so I looked at the bedroom as well, and I was tidying up in the bedroom. I like to read in bed. I don't know if you do or not, but I will sometimes read for a little while in bed. I usually fall asleep with the book falling on me because sleep is not one of my issues. But sometimes if the bedroom's cluttered, it's a little less restful going to sleep. So I did a few things in there, just rearranging and getting ready for a new week ahead of me. So my plate of life would not be as full, and there would be room for other things that I really wanted to accomplish and focus on. Well, after I'm doing all these physical things, I got to thinking about simplifying my life in its totality, not just my physical life, because I have a spiritual life, I have a life with friends and family. I have an emotional life. You know, are those areas crowded and cluttered, or can they be adjusted somewhat? What's my personal schedule like? Caring for the people that I love. And so I went through that, and I decided um, what little things needed to be adjusted there, and even made a couple of phone calls over the weekend, checking in with family members, and making sure that where help was needed, help could be made available, uh, so that those of our family who are really pretty needy right now uh, would have somebody available to them, and it wouldn't fall back on just one person, not necessarily me, but that all of us were sharing the load with family. And the same way with friends, because you want to help your friends as much as possible, but you can't do it all for every single person. That's one thing I have learned. And I've also learned that your family and friends don't expect that of you. You may tend to expect it of yourself, but it's not necessary. We are family. We can help each other. And if everybody does a little, it makes things much more manageable for all of us. So then after I looked at that, I began to look within myself, and am I cluttering up my life with a lot of unnecessary mental exercise? Things that don't accomplish anything but fill my thoughts. Worry is probably the one uh, that I hear most people talk about. Oh, I'm so worried. I can't think about anything else. Uh, I'm. I just can't deal with it. I just need to worry. Well, why do you need to worry if you can't? If worry doesn't accomplish anything? My grandmother was absolutely a lady that never worried. And she had so many children. And she had 6 sons that were in World War II. Uh, that's cause for a human being to worry. Um, and in talking to her, because she lived to a wonderful old age, she was well into her 90s when she passed away. Uh, she would say to you, you have just got to let go of things that you cannot do anything about, or it will drive you crazy. She said, worrying about everybody is like trying to go to town in a rocking chair. You do a lot of moving, but you don't make any progress. And that's always stuck with me when it comes to worry. And I try to let go of it. I know I am a spiritual person, and I don't often talk about this, but this is relevant to the conversation. I remember one time when my aunt was quite ill and she needed to have heart surgery. And this at this particular time, my 2 oldest boys, who were in the service at the time, were overseas in harm's way. And I took her to the hospital when we were waiting. The next morning was her surgery, and she looked at me and she said, "Well, Brian, don't you want to go home?" And I looked at her and I said, Why would I want to go home? I need to be here with you to make sure you're okay." And I mean, what could I do? Really, except be a support. Certainly I'm not going to go in with the doctor and say, missed a spot here. But at any rate, um, she said, "Well, your boys." And I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "You're got to be worried about them." And I said, "Well, not really." I said, "I made my peace with it." And I think sometimes you have to look at the things you can change and the things that you can't change, and just simply do that. Make your peace with it, that you'll get through it as it has to be gotten through. It's not yours to know. It's not yours to be able to affect the outcome. Uh, and she said, well, what are you going to do? And I told her, I said, on Ethel, I made my peace with it. What I decided was both of those boys are going to come home. They're either going to come home to me or they're going to come home to God. And I'm okay with that. And, whatever your belief is good, but that was mine, is mine. And it gave me great comfort. And I just let it go. I just totally let it go. And the relief was huge because worry accomplished nothing. It just simply clouded my ability to help in other ways. So that was another thing that I looked at today when it comes to simplifying my life is what can I do to realign my priorities to allow me the energy and the focus I need to live my best life today. Because if I do the things I need to do to live my best life today, each and every day, I know with your help and support, I am going to get to where I want to go. It's just a matter of persisting through time, of keeping it simple. So I guess that's my message today to you is look for ways you can simplify your life so that you can focus your energies on things that are important to you that you can make a difference in today. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm going to be weighing in a little bit later, and I will check in with you next week and let you know how I did as soon as the waters go down a little bit and I can cross the creek. So you take care. Love you dearly, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.